please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, starting to see some green shoots. Good evening and welcome to this special broadcast, Eye on India. I'm Shireen Bhan. After a mega overhaul last week, the GST Council has slashed taxes on nearly 200 items. But what's even more encouraging is that the revenue collections are starting to pick up and the shortfall is gradually reducing. Let's go across now to Timsy Jaipuria. She's breaking that down for us. Timsy, what are the revenue collection details throwing up?
Yes, what we understand from sources that in a presentation given to the GST Council in the Guwahati meeting, the revenue shortfall of states has started declining. The revenue shortfall, which was about 12,000 odd crore rupees for the month of July, has come down to 7,500 crore rupees in September. Manufacturing states, on the other hand, are not that badly affected as compared to the consuming states. There are about 17 consuming states which have recorded revenue loss of more than 25%, whereas about 8 manufacturing states have recorded less than 25% decline in the revenue loss. On the other hand, surprisingly, Delhi is the only state to have a revenue surplus for the month of September. Now, that's a very interesting trend to see that at least one state has started moving towards a revenue surplus sort of a thing. The worst hit are Puducherry, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, where the revenue loss ranges between 40% to 60%, which is really high. On the other hand, when you talk of the manufacturing states which are less than 25% of revenue loss is Maharashtra, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and the shortfall of these states is in single digits only. So all in all, when we come down to the revenue collections also, the September figures are 2% higher to the ones of July. The September numbers are about 95,000 odd crore rupees and the collections are still on, so we are closing to 1 lakh crore mark. So we are seeing a good healthy revenue collection as of now and the numbers are improving month by month. Back to you.
All right, Timsy, appreciate you joining us. That is the big CNBC TV18 news break here. You've seen on your screens the percentage shortfall for the month of October 2017 in terms of revenue collection. Puducherry 59.5, Uttarakhand at 50, Himachal Pradesh 46.8%, Chhattisgarh 43.3, Bihar 41.5%, Goa 41.5%, coming in at number 6. Joining me now are the two major stakeholders in the GST process: the Chief Minister of Pondicherry, V. Narayanaswamy, the Finance Minister of Goa, the representative of the GST Council, Movin Godino. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the show. Mr. Narayanaswamy, if I can start by asking you, sir, I'm looking at the data that we have now been able to access, and that shows that the percentage shortfall in October 2017 revenue, Puducherry is right at the top, sir, 59.5%. That's the percentage shortfall in revenue. What exactly is going on? What is the experience like in Puducherry, sir?
No, we were told at the time when the GST regime was introduced by the NDA government that the consuming states will get more revenue. We were also thinking that the consuming states will get advantage, therefore we started supporting them. In fact, we brought a 3 broad policy in the GST Council. As a member of the GST Council, I told them that as far as the ceiling of the tax should not go beyond 18%. But unfortunately, for about 200 items, they put about 28% and odd. Now they come down. In Guwahati meeting, they have reduced drastically because of the political consideration. In fact, as far as Puducherry is concerned, we are a consuming state. And input tax credit, we have to give it to the people who have been invested there. Therefore, this year, the month of September, we lost heavily, and also in October we lost heavily. With 30%, then 40%, now 50% has come. Now they have been telling that in the coming months after the reduction in the tax, the revenue mobilization will be more because of the turnover will be more. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed because the government of India and also in the GST Council, whenever we raise the issue of common man consumer goods, the tax should be low. But they did not agree. Now they are agreeing. But we'll have to wait for some time to see whether there will be revenue buoyancy or not.
yes, you will have to wait to see if, in fact, these tax cuts will lead to a revenue buoyancy. But you're absolutely right when you point out, Mr. Narayan Swamy, that the assumption was that it will be the manufacturing states that will require compensation, that will actually lead the pack when it comes to the loss in revenue. But what we're seeing is the consumption states, the consuming states, are actually losing revenue. Mr. Godino, let me come to you, because it's not just the state of Puducherry. Goa coming in at number 6, your revenue percentage shortfall in October 2017 revenue at 41.5%. How do you explain this, sir?
As you have seen, Shireen, looking at the figures, even Goa figures at 41% shortfall in revenue. As I understand, the income that is going to be generated through indirect taxes, being a service-oriented economy, or where services are rendered, it is more sort of seasonal. After October, that is from November, we expect the revenues to pick up. And come another 2 months, you will see that this particular 41% shortfall will certainly be covered. And we must realize one thing, the manufacturing states are also consuming states. So therefore, in some cases, the shortfall may not be that much. Being a consuming state, we may feel the brunt initially more. And then, even though 4.5 months have passed, as you may be knowing, there are still compliance issues which are all the people have not been able to graduate to the GST regime totally.
Sure. But Mr. Godino, as was being pointed out, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to understand, as was being pointed out by the Chief Minister of Puducherry, Mr. Narayan Swamy, that the percentage shortfall in revenue has only declined further. It's gotten worse over the last 3 months. Is that the story for the state of Goa as well, sir?
I would not fully agree with him, because some states where we expected the revenue generation to be higher has not been so. In case of some states where we had expected that may not do so well are doing well. We have to look at the overall picture. The GST architecture, after all, in such a diverse country and in so many states, it works differently at different levels. It depends also on the number of people complying, the number of people paying up through the new system.
What is the compliance now, sir, in Goa?
Ultimately, when there is overall buoyancy, which I think will take another couple of months for us to actually know the real shortfalls and real shortcomings, if I may say so, where also we would follow corrective steps. That will balance itself, and you will see that things pick up for the better. If you look at the figures that are there before us as of now, I think we did not even expect to reach that level earlier, those pessimists who were there. But I am still optimistic, and I say it is still early days to judge a reform which is such a large one to such a large country. But the figures, I would still say, speak well for themselves.
You make a valid point, Mr. Godino. Yeah, and we have, in fact, as we pointed out, we've actually seen an uptick in the overall GST collection over the previous month. But Mr. Narayan Swamy, let me come back to you, sir. So what is the compensation that your state has received so far?
No, it's right. So far, the government of India, only for the month of July, August, they gave the compensation. Now, September, October, we have not received. September, October, we have not received. But whatever be the thing, paying the compensation is not going to be solving the problem, because the compensation will come. Because as far as the smaller states are concerned, we have got committed expenditure. We'll have to do that in the same month itself, because this is the situation in the smaller states. Therefore, now this is the transition period. Let us wait and watch. And ultimately, because the GST Council is meeting, we will redress our grievances, because whatever we said in the initial stage, that the approach which was adopted by the GST Council and also this government was mainly responsible for this mess.
Sure. Okay, but Mr. Godino, let me come back to you, sir, because it is our understanding that the compensation amount that has been collected by way of the cess, that is in fact suffice or that is enough to pay the compensation that has to be paid to the states that are seeing this revenue shortfall, 17 states to be exact, where the revenue shortfall is more than 25% for the month of October. Is my understanding accurate, sir?
Yeah, I think so far we are comfortable insofar as the cess collected is enough to sort of compensate those states which lack revenue. But we don't want to forever be in that sort of situation.
Oh,
and
obviously.
if you look at how the whole thing is fanning out and the whole architecture of GST is working, and with practical changes being made, on the one hand, I'm surprised that my good friends sometimes on the other side of the political spectrum sometimes try to say that you should come down to only one slab. You cut down so-and-so things from 28, you come down to 18, or you go to even 5%, which would be ideal. At the same time, then you have the same people shouting that the states are short of revenue. I think we are taking very balanced decisions, taking the overall situation into consideration. That we should not land in a situation that even amount collected to cess is not enough to compensate that. And believe me, this is going to last for 5 years. After 5 years, we don't want a situation where any state, for that matter, would want the center to give them some funds in this regard. And we will be
beyond 5 years. There is no guarantee from the center,
much earlier.
Yeah.
We will be moving to an ideal situation much earlier. In the next couple of months, you will yourself see how much buoyancy is there and how things are working and what practical decisions we have taken, taking the sentiments of the small traders, small businessmen, of the stakeholders. And there are various committees also that have been formed with them coming on board to give good suggestions. We are always amenable to good suggestions, to practical decisions which would make the GST architecture ideal and work for the nation.
All right. Mr. Godino, CNBC TV18 exclusive news breaks on the GST. Joining us on the program, the Chief Minister of Puducherry, Mr. Narayanaswamy, Movin Godino, member of the GST Council representing the state of Goa, and also with us Harishankar Subramaniam, partner and national leader of indirect tax at EY. Mr. Godino, let me ask you about the possibility of including real estate in the ambit of the GST. I am given to understand, sir, that a presentation was made to the GST Council, but what we are given to believe is that inclusion of real estate will not just require amendments to the GST law, but may in fact also require a constitutional amendment. A, can you confirm that to us? And B, how soon do you believe we could move to a real possibility of GST being included? Real estate being included in GST.
See, real estate is a very important thing and it really impacts the economy, what decisions we take. As you yourself have said, besides needing a constitutional amendment, as far as getting real estate in the GST ambit, I would simply say it is a work in progress. We want to very carefully assess each and every aspect, and that's why the thing was deferred until the next meeting. I am also keeping my fingers crossed because we need to do our homework well. Because the real estate is one thing which impacts the entire economy. The growth in housing, demand for housing and everything else matters. So I can safely say that in the shortest possible time, we will be considering this perhaps in the next GST Council, and we will come at a very good decision.
Okay, likely to come at a very good decision. Mr. Narayanaswamy, let me take that forward. What we are given to understand is that it will require amendments in the GST law. You will need to define goods to include movable and immovable property, define services as anything other than goods. The services definition will need to include tangibles. States will continue to have the right to levy stamp duty. Is there some consensus within the council, sir, on the treatment of these issues that I just spoke of? And do you share Mr. Godino's confidence that you could arrive at a decision on inclusion of real estate in GST at the level of the GST Council as early as the next few meetings?
No, as far as the real estate is concerned, though it was listed in the agenda in Guwahati meeting, the presentation was not made by the officers in the council. In fact, it is one of the important area where the states, right from the Commune Panchayat level up to the level of the state, revenue will be given to the state. Therefore, if we bring it within the ambit of GST, what will be the implications? We have to apply our mind, we have to study with the officers and also some of the people who got knowledge on the GST law, and then we will have to come to a conclusion. We cannot hurry it up because already because of the demonetization, real estate sector is in doldrum. And further adding to their woe, if you put them in GST in a hurried manner, the entire real estate sector will collapse and our country's economy also will collapse. Therefore, we have to take a very cautious decision whether it can be brought under within the ambit of the GST law or not, because it's a larger issue which you have to do.
Okay, larger issue needs considered decision making. Mr. Godino, on the other aspect of electricity, for instance, and today we had the chief economic advisor on the channel speaking to us and saying that his firm belief was that electricity must come under the ambit of the goods and services tax. Do you see some forward movement on that issue as well, sir?
As far as I am concerned and majority of the members of the GST Council are concerned, we want to move forward quite quickly and at whatever fast pace possible, whether it is real estate, whether it is getting electricity in the ambit. As pointed out by Mr. Narayan Swamy, and I would also say that we are very careful, and it is not one particular political party deciding these issues. It is all the parties together included. We have to come at the right decision after considering each and every aspect. But I think majority, again, I will say, are of the view that even electricity should come under the GST, And if you have noted, even a state like Jammu and Kashmir, I read the other day, even Mr. Drabu advocating that they have their own laws, so they will get electricity under GST. I think that will be a forward step, and perhaps that would be serve us also as an example to move even faster in that direction. It would perhaps not be as complicated as getting real estate in the ambit. Because
real estate. So electricity probably,
One thing we must realize, we cannot keep on subsidizing things every now and then. And tomorrow, everything needs upgradation, your whole power system. Tomorrow, if you don't have that money and you have the old systems continuing, then naturally there would be a collapse. We were not looking at a collapse. We are looking things to build on even further. And that's why we need to put electricity in the GST ambit as soon as possible, but after looking at everything very carefully.
Absolutely. Sir, I'll come back to you in just a second. Let me bring in a quick word in from Hari Shankar Subramaniam. Hari, you heard what both Mr. Narayan Swamy and Mr. Godino had to say on the inclusion of real estate and electricity. Real estate perhaps more complex and complicated. Electricity perhaps will be simpler of the two to pull off. Your quick comments.
Both are absolutely welcome, and both has to be into GST. Like Mr. Godino rightly said, if you want transparency as far as real estate is concerned, it has to be in GST. The only area there is how do you handle the stamp duty issue. That's where you will require both the constitutional and the GST law amendment. As far as electricity duty is concerned, it's more simpler. In fact, in the interim when the discussions happened, electricity at one time was to be in GST, and then it suddenly went out of GST. So with energy security and the kind of investments that you require, both should be into GST. And I'm saying in all this conversation, I'm a little concerned that petroleum has got forgotten.
Right.
Petroleum equally should merit those 5 products to be in GST as early as possible, because there is a huge amount of cascading by virtue of that, because that is an input for many industrial sectors.
That is right. But Hari, very quickly, I also want to talk to you about another pressing issue, anti-profiteering. And I think the finance minister making it very clear in the last meeting, specifically on the issue of restaurants. If you don't pass on the benefits to consumers, then there are going to be consequences. What's the concern now as far as anti-profiteering goes?
No, so with this rate reduction on 200 odd items, in fact, price drop has become right at the front. I mean, it's back into focus. And when you talk about price drop because of headline rate decreases, anti-profiteering always comes into focus. So in my view, that's again come onto the table. Yes, you've already seen companies very keen to really reduce the prices wherever they've got benefits of rates. I don't think that is an issue. But my view is it's important that soon the council and the government brings out deadlines as to how this has to be done, so that there is consistency. The problem is today each will try and do what they understand needs to be done.
Right.
Everybody wants to do it because really they want to pass on those benefits.
Sure.
But if there is a defined methodology like what you saw in Australia or what you saw in Malaysia, that would be really helpful so that you will have less litigation on that.
Okay, let me very quickly bring in closing comments from our two GST Council members. Mr. Godino, let me start by asking you to respond to the point here and the concern that Hari Shankar Subramaniam is raising on the issue of price cuts not being passed on and anti-profiteering, the vagueness around that issue, sir.
Yeah, the classic example being that of restaurants where actually they used to pay 18.5% and they were brought to a slab of 18 with the input tax. Even though the relief was 0.5%, to the contrary, they were additionally billing the people for 18%, 9 plus 9. So this was a very wrong thing being done by them. That's the reason why looking at the sentiment of the people and looking at the demand from the people, we have come down to 5% without any
without ITC.
Input tax credit, without ITC for them. So we want basically the benefits of low rates to be passed down to the end consumer all over the country on all the goods where rates have been lowered. This is not happening. And that is why in due course of time, though it is not the intention of the GST Council, because again it should not seem like we are going back to the Inspector Raj. But if there is no compliance and people don't pass on the benefit, then obviously we have to act. But I hope the new trust develops between the government and the traders and the businessmen at large and all the stakeholders, and let us learn to trust each other. Basically, sometimes due to some trust deficit, people don't want to believe certain things and things happen the wrong way. But if benefits are not passed on to the end consumer, certainly you will see action being taken under the Anti-Profiteering Act, and we will be seeing that benefits do get passed on to the end consumer. That is the ultimate aim. Otherwise, you have such a nice architecture of GST and rates being lowered.
Right.
What use is it if the benefit is not passed on to the end consumer? One has to factor that very important point as our goal.
Absolutely. Well, those are the headlines that we've got you on this program today, that we've got about 17 states that have seen a revenue shortfall of more than 25%. The good news is that we are seeing a pickup as far as the GST collections are concerned, and we're also seeing an improvement in a bunch of states. In fact, 13 states have seen a marked improvement over the last 3 months in the percentage reduction in shortfall in the October 2017 revenue as compared to the August 2017 revenue picture. The Chief Minister of Puducherry, Mr. V. Narayan Swamy, Mr. Movin Godino and Hari Shankar Subramaniam, appreciate you joining us here on ION India. Thanks very much for your time. With that, it is time for us to wrap up our special. We'll see you again in just a short while from now. From all of us here, goodbye. Thanks for watching.